What's your Tyler's back with the Rest Reviews here on Tyler's Rest Reviews with one more pit stop before we do the last of the build into, the road to WrestleMania for the Ruthless Aggression, like after WrestleMania 20, that is. You obviously know what they are. With ECW Guilty as Charged 2001, the last of the ECW pay-per-views, well, the last ECW pay-per-view ever. Not counting the reboot, because we don't count those. But yeah, this was the last ECW pay-per-view, because before I get to why this was not supposed, but anyways, January 7th at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City, and anyways, I'll talk about what happened in the aftermath and all that. And like I said before, where do I begin with all this? First up, in October, they lost their TV deal with TNN and all that because Raw went on that network, and ECW was kicked to the curb and all that. Then, at the end of the 2000, ECW Syndicate show, Hardcore TV, that got canceled too. So, yeah. And then there's this period, which had no build to it. It only got not that much of a build, honestly, in the period by sets. Otherwise, it's like the same exact numbers that WCW Greed had 2 months later with it, and actually, as a matter of fact, I'm recording this on the day of that WCW was bought out and all that, or the last WCW show they ever did. What am I trying to say? The last Nitro that happened on this date, 25 years later. It's actually a good thing I'm not going to do that. All that. I'm doing my schedule is doing TNA in 2006 and 2011. So you saw the last two ones, which were, Destination X 2006, and that disastrous Victory Road 2011. But you obviously know about Victory Road 2011. Anyways, so the show begins with Joey Styles and Joe Gerner, introducing the fans and all that, and then out comes Christian York and William Matthews. They get attacked by the Baldies, and so much chaos going on. Joe Gerner gets attacked by the Baldies, and then Cyrus and Jerry Lynn comes in, and then we get a match between this. It was not a match. Cyrus and Jerry Lynn won this whole thing. And I'm like, really? I'm not grading this because it was mostly a segment, really. But Jerry Lynn says he's going to be in the main event, and it's no longer be a jobber and all that. Anyways, then we get the introduction to the period, the introduction and all that. Anyways, then we get for the ECW Tag Team Champions, Danny Joy and Roadkill defeats Hot Commodity of Julio De Niro and EC Money, and there's that. And basically there's that, and it was a decent tag team title match, and this would be the last time we got an ECW Tag Team Champions here in this whole thing, and there's that. I'll give it a 6 out of 10, all that. Then the bad guys were bad losers, and then nobody comes down. We get nobody to being Chris Hamburg and what the fuck was this, really? This is like random matches, because this show was just thrown together. Let's be honest here. This was a thrown together pay-per-view. Let's be fair. Yes, this is the remaster I did back in 2021, all that. On my main channel, that is. Uh, there was a ref bump. Then nobody gets him in the crossface chicken wing, and there was another referee coming, but then another one, which was Chris Eddie in a referee shirt because he lost a loser leaves ECW match before this. And then Spike Dudley comes out, and then all of this, like, what the fuck was this? A 2 out of 10, I'll give it. Anyways. And then we had an I Quit match between Tommy Dreamer defeating C.W. Anderson. Kind of funny, the I Quit stipulation back in W2K26 and all that. Even though I don't like I Quit matches, this was a good I Quit match. So many chair shots to the head, it's kind of uncomfortable to look at. They had a match at Massacre 34th Street the month prior, and this is their rematch and all that. And it was actually, like I said, a good match. I give it a 7.5 out of 10, I'll give it. Yeah, nothing really bad about this, really. The finish came with Dreamer hits a top rope Death Valley driver through a table and then used like the wires to hold the table, and that got CW to say, I quit. Yeah. Yeah, that was that. And then we got a three-way dance determined. You can't make this up. To determine the number one contenders for the ECW Tag Team Championships. It's hilarious because the winners did not receive their tag team match, which was Tajiri and Mikey Whipwreck. They defeated Kick-Ass and Super Crazy in the FBI. By the way, 25 years later, they're still owing the ECW Tag Team title shot. But yeah. The company was done after this. No wonder why. It was a fun triple threat tag match, but fun is all I have to say about it, really. Oh, sorry, a three-way dance. And all that. I give it a 7 out of 10 also. Another good match. Then we got another random segment match. Like, Swinger and Simon Dunn versus Balls Mahoney and Chili Williams. It's in 48 seconds because Rhino comes out and destroys everybody. Yeah, we'll get to him in the next match, as a matter of fact. Which was technically the main event, but not really the main event. The advertised main event, that is. It was a tables, ladders, chairs, and canes match for the ECW World Championship. Sandman defeated Steve Corino and Justin. Oh, my bad. Not Jack. Wait, Jesus Christ. To win his fourth ECW Championship, Sandman went through a lot of tables during this whole freaking match. Literally, and then here he comes, climb up the ladder, gets through a table. He went through a lot of tables in this fucking match. But he still not won the match and all that. It was funny to think about that. And then afterwards, all three shook hands, and the bully come out, and then out of nowhere, here comes Rhino, who he tripped, then goes the statement. He cuts a promo saying, fuck you, New York, and then he says, why am I the ECW when this fucking poor ass company doesn't have TV? Wow, what a way to bury the company when it's on his tombstone. Yeah. And then he tells Sandman to put the bell on the line, and then Sandman says, ring the fucking bell, and Rhino defeats the Sandman in 1 minute to win the ECW Championship. Rhino was the last ECW Championship in the company history. Now, I don't count the reboot, okay? That doesn't... all that. It's a combined match, I'm being honest here. So, there is that whole thing. And then Rhino celebrates, and then Cyrus challenge anyone, and then down comes Rob Van Dam, and then Jerry Lynn attacks him, and this leads to the main event. The unscheduled main event. By the way, the ladder match, the TLCC. Yeah, get that right on your head. The whole thing is the 5 out of 10 for it. Yeah, the main event is Robin and defeating Jerry Lynn, and probably the best match on this show. You know, there's get used to seeing these two later on when I do Destiny Chick 2011 and Battle for Glory 2011. Stay tuned for those two respective shows by July and October. Like I said, throughout this year, I'm doing the rest of TNA 2011. And last week you saw Victor Road 11, which you obviously know about that fucking show. Ugh. I'm not going into the whole detail. This was the best match on the show. RVD won, and that will be it for ECW, unfortunately. 8 out of 10 will give the match. The aftermath, let's be honest here. The original plan was to have the next period would be Living Dangerously on March 11, including introducing that ECW was cutting through pay-per-view schedules in half. However, by the end of the week, a house show in Beaufort, Bluffering, Arkansas on January 13th would end up being the final being the promotion's final show ever. In February, it was announced that ECW canceled Living Dangerously pay-per-view. On March 5th, Paul Heyman shocked the wrestling world by appearing on Monday Night Raw, reunited with his former colleague Jim Ross, replacing Jerry Lawler, who had quit the WWF in April in 2001. ECW officially closed and all that. Not that much of an aftermath type thing on here. I'm doing it, but yeah. Yeah. So, this was a thrown together show, but it was good for what it was. But kind of depressing to look at this period again. You know, I didn't know what I was going to do for the last March review for this month. I was like, I can't do any of the WCW shows yet. I mean, there's that WCW Vault channel on YouTube, but I don't want to do WCW Greed or something like that. So I decided to do this instead. It's a 6 out of 10 overall. So next week it's WrestleMania reviews. Starting with, like I said, all 3 I did for the Ruthless Aggression era, from the Rumbles to the No Way Outs. So we're going to start with WrestleMania 21 next week. And, yeah. It's going to be tomorrow, and then Saturday to Sunday is Night of Glory. Yeah. So, like to see a comment below, subscribe to this channel notification bell as well as my main show also, and you'll see all those in there. Bye-bye.